Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I'm C.C. Péan, and I am joining you all from NOLA, baby, still in New Orleans. Been here since June, and we'll be here through December, so you'll be seeing me in this kitchen quite a few more times. But thank you for joining me, irrespective of where I am. I appreciate you tuning in. I look forward to spending this time with you, sharing my knowledge, and actually learning from you all as well, from your comments from time to time. So tonight, we are going to make a braised tofu. Now, a lot of people don't tend to like tofu because they say it doesn't really have flavor. And a lot of times when you go out to eat, it's like a quick dish that's cooked and the flavor really is on the outside, but not on it doesn't like soak in. So I've talked to you all about that and how to make sure that flavor gets into your tofu. And if you remember, one of the main ways to do that is to press your tofu. If we can just go to the side shot. When you get your tofu, now this only works for firm, extra firm, super firm. If you have soft tofu, you're wasting your time. You're basically going to press it into an oblivion. But if you get a firm or extra firm tofu, what you want to do is you want to take it out of the package. You want to slice it, put it in between two clean kitchen towels, and put something weighted on it, like a cast iron pot, or you can take a cookbook and put a frying pan on top of that, something like that that's going to put pressure on it and it's going to squeeze out all the water. The reason you want to do that is when you squeeze out all the water, it leaves room for whatever you're cooking for those seasonings and that flavor to go in your tofu. Now, I usually press mine out for a minimum of about 45 minutes, and that's what I did with this one. That's why it looks like this. The other reason why it looks like this, I want you all to take a look. You can go to the forward shot now. This is a high protein, super firm tofu. I actually got this from Whole Foods. And the reason I bought this is because one of the jokes in the plant-based world is people are always obsessed about where do vegans and vegetarians get their protein. There's protein in every single fruit and vegetable out there at varying degrees, legumes, beans, all of those. And if you're consuming a healthy amount and a varied amount of different types of food, you're going to get your protein in. But if by chance you feel like you want a super duper portion of protein, this particular product has 14 grams of protein per serving, okay? And there's 5 servings in this pack. And I would say that it wouldn't be hard to get through this in 2 days. So this is a great means of getting plant-based protein in your system. And for those of you who are concerned about estrogen, this is phytoestrogen. So it's not going to affect you whatsoever if you have had any kind of breast cancer issues or anything like that. This is plant estrogen, and it affects your body completely different. So that is one of the main ingredients tonight. And when I put together the recipe, I was trying to think about what to tell you all. And braised tofu is something that is very popular in Asian cuisine. So that's the angle that I'm going in tonight. But like a lot of my recipes, you use whatever seasonings you want to. You have your basics, like you have your pressed tofu. You're going to have your alliums, you're going to have your garlic and your onions, your bell peppers. I'm going to use some broccoli, some snow peas, and some snap peas and some carrots. But if you wanted to do this like Italian style, you could use fresh basil, and you could use sun-dried tomatoes and your peppers and your onions, and you could add some fresh oregano or Italian seasoning. If you wanted to take this to like an Indian style. You would use cumin, you could use garam masala, you could use a little curry. You know, you could, there's so many different ways. You can make a barbecue braised tofu. You can use barbecue sauce and, you know, liquefy that with a little bit of broth and make that your braising liquid. There's so many different ways to go. I'm showing you one way, but always play around with it. Play around with it. It's great to do that. You discover some great things that way. Here's a tip I want to give you all tonight. You all are always complimenting me on how beautiful my dishes look. Well, I'm honored. I know they taste good, and I really work at making sure they look good. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you all about tonight is how to make sure that your dish looks as appetizing as possible. One of the things that I do is I blanch my veggies. See that? So and when you blanch your veggies and then you shock them in cold water, they're beautiful, they're crisp, they're bright in color. They don't take on that kind of overcooked pale green look. They stay vibrant. So what I always do with my veggies before I do any of my dishes is I get a big pot of water going. You can salt the water if you want to, you don't have to. I put it in there for about 30 to 45 seconds. In the meantime, I have a big bowl of ice water. I put this in the hot water, and once I see that color start to come up, I take it out and I put it in the ice cold water, let it completely cool down, and then I put it in a strainer or a colander. And this is what you end up with. Beautiful, bright, crispy, still has crisp to it. So when I cook it later on, it's going to maintain some of that crispness and it's going to maintain that beautiful color. So I have some of these beautiful carrots. I did the same thing with them. I have some snow peas and some sugar snaps that I did that with. And you're going to see how it all comes together. So let's talk about the ingredients. Again, very, very simple. One of the things that I love to use when I make my braising liquid is love to use low sodium broth, vegetable broth. So I have that here. I have some ginger and garlic puree. See that? I have a little bit of sesame oil. I have a little agave. You don't have to use these things. This is just a flavor profile I'm using this evening. I have some low sodium soy. I even have a little tamarind paste. My island people know about that. We've got our onions, our bell peppers. This is very simple, but it's very delicious. Now, if you want to kick up your flavor even more, what you can do after you have pressed your tofu is you can marinate it because that's also going to give it more flavor. But this dish is definitely on the lighter side in terms of flavor. And you know, there are some people that don't like overly seasoned food. I come from a home, West African, West Indian, where we season everything. Eggs were seasoned with, we had tomatoes and onions and garlic and you know, all kinds of stuff in our eggs. I literally never had a plain egg growing up. But there is a place for simple foods. And so that's where this dish is coming from tonight. So what I'm gonna do now, after this has been pressed out, I am going to cut it up. Let me turn on my stove. I want to get that pan good and hot. And I'm not going to cut this too small because I don't want it to, you know, I don't want it to fall apart. So I'm just this is going to be like in 9 pieces. And it's going to be easier for me to handle too because I have to kind of pan fry this. This is so funny because also I must admit that I have become a fan of K-drama. And so much of K-drama it has to do with food. Korean culture really celebrates food. And on one episode, they actually made a braised chicken, which made me think about a braised tofu. Okay, so I'm gonna mix my little sauce together so that it's ready to go when I'm ready to go. And when I said between a half cup and a 3/4 cup, it really depends on how much liquid you want. And if you want it really saucy or if you want it more dry. So I'm going to use about a quarter cup of my low sodium broth. To that, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of low sodium soy, about a tablespoon of my agave, and I'm going to put all of my tamarind in. And those of you who are not familiar with tamarind, it's kind of a sour, tangy type of thing. So I'm going to just mix that up. So that's going to be ready to go. All right, so if you can follow me over to the stove, we're going to get started on our tofu. Okay, so I've got my pan going. I'm going to use a little bit of my sesame oil. This is a nonstick pan. I've talked to you all about nonstick pans. If you're going to use it, make sure you use utensils that are not going to scrape away the coating. I'm sure that's not what the people that made these pans intended. So I'm just placing these in here. I have this like over a medium-high heat. The oil is nice and hot. You can also use a spray if you would like to, if you're trying to be really mindful of the oil you take in. But this really is a negligible amount because this is about 5 or 6 servings here. So we're just going to let that brown. There's so many different beautiful contributions from around the world when it comes to food. And you know, growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist tradition, I think I shared with you all last week that I went to a school where there were Filipinos and Samoans and El Salvadorians and Haitians and Jamaicans, and there was me who was West Indian and West African, Panamanians, Costa Ricans, Russians. And San Francisco on a whole at that time was such an incredibly diverse city. And, you know, lunchtime was like the greatest thing. We were exposed to so many things. You could be a finicky kid if you wanted to, I guess, but it was such a awesome experience to go to that school. And then later on, I went to Monterey Bay Academy and again was introduced to and exposed to so many different things. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm sure that has had a lot to do with why I love food the way I do, and I'm so curious as I am. Okay, so this is brown. So I'm gonna start flipping these over. Got nice and crispy. This is almost kind of like if you, somebody who's familiar with cooking meat, and when you are doing your meat and you want to kind of sear it, it's kind of the same process, except without the artery clogging factor. This is looking beautiful. Flipping this over. And this is why I said you don't want to do them too small. You would be flipping all day if you did this even smaller. And this is a nice firm tofu. So you see that it is holding up. All right. It'll take a little while longer. There's a lot of times you can just buy a sauce that is, ready to go. I like to avoid those because oftentimes they are super packed with salt and preservatives. This way, you're really controlling what you're taking in. We're gonna let that go a little while longer, and then I'm gonna get my other things ready to go. So I've got my onions. I've got about a half of a large onion. I've got some bell peppers here. You can see those. My onions. And then I've got my garlic and ginger here. So, yep, this is good and brown. So I'm gonna just put these on my plate at the side. And drop my onions in there, my bell peppers in there, my garlic and my ginger. Gonna go in there. All right. So we're just gonna let this. We're not gonna cook this long because this is actually gonna cook down in the braising liquid a little bit. Expect that. Okay. I'm going to add my blanched veggies. I'm going to put my tofu back in. And now I'm just going to add my braising liquid. Turn my temperature down a little bit and just work this through. Smells divine. And this is when I was mentioning that if you want more liquid, you would have used more broth. But I really I want this to be light. I don't want it heavy at all. This can be served with rice, or it can just go on its own. But it smells wonderful. And look at how bright and crisp. Let's lift this up. Look at how crisp and beautiful and bright those vegetables look. That's the key to blanching ahead of time. If you want to wow your guests with a delicious dish that also looks good, this is how you do it. And that sauce is thickening up a little bit. And this is ready to go, people. Earlier, I grilled some bok choy. So let's go back over to the counter and we're gonna plate. All right. It's gonna be just as simple, people. This is gonna go right from the pan onto the plate. Look at that. And to this, I'm gonna put some scallions. And you know what? I had some mung bean sprouts, but I'm not even gonna use them. This may look fussy to you all, but I can promise you, All of these components play into the final flavor of this dish. So ladies and gentlemen, oh, this is a quick one tonight. This is 20 minutes. Here is our braised tofu. We've got baby broccoli in there. We've got carrots. We've got bok choy, spring pea, snow peas, snap peas, some extra firm, super nutritious, high protein tofu, and a beautiful sauce that's featuring low sodium soy, some low sodium vegetable broth, a touch of agave, and a little bit of tamarind. There you have it. This would be beautiful. This would be beautiful on a table for Thanksgiving. This is something that you can fix for your your vegetarian or vegan family members, and they will not feel like they missed a thing. Let's go to the other camera. Look at that. Doesn't that look delicious? Can you imagine this with some like a nice scoop of brown rice? Delicious. Thank you all for joining me on Reclaiming Your Health. We will see you next week with more nutritious, delicious food. Bye-bye.